I think there's many benefits, but three that come to mind for me are first, inspiration, right? Especially as a strategist, all had that moment where you have a brief you have to tackle and you have this blank page and it's like, oh, I'm stuck. What do I do? And so when you go back and you look at some of the winning case studies from awards like the AMEs, it just gets you a little bit unstuck, gives you that dose of, that jolt of inspiration and really helps you figure out like, oh, okay, maybe I can try this path or try that path, etc. We also use awards as training here. So we'll often have all agency meetings or department meetings where we are just looking at award case studies and really unpacking what was the key insight there? Why was that so successful? What did they do that kind of zagged when everybody else was zigging? So it's awesome for a training tool for our team members. And then I think lastly, just overall, when you're trying to take the pulse of where the industry is going, they serve as great barometers, right? Like, oh, one year it might be all, purpose-driven work. Another year it might be all AI-driven work. So it kind of gives you a sense of like, what's the lay of the landscape and where are things moving to sort of understand what's being awarded at different shows. So I think those are maybe three of the top benefits, I would say, to awards like the AMEs. I actually feel like some brands have pulled back, and of course we're seeing that more and more in the press as well, in terms of really wanting to, not being seen as taking sides or not being too polarizing. And very interestingly, we just released maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago the results of a study. It's a longitudinal study. So we started it in fall of 2020, which was the height of COVID, right? We were in COVID, there was an election year, we were coming up on the holiday season. We wanted to like repeat that study again this year at the same time period because found ourselves again in an election year. And what was interesting about that study is that we found that consumers are actually more anxious and more overwhelmed today than they were in 2020 at the height of the pandemic. And why I bring that up is that it was universal finding. So regardless of politics, regardless of demographics, regardless of all these other things that are like sowing divisions in our society, we found that there's this sort of ubiquitous feeling of what we've coined the perma swirl, just this feeling of cognitive overwhelm that consumers are experiencing every single day. So, we're starting to think about what does this mean for the brands that we work on and how can a brand help, without having to feel like you're kind of taking sides politically or whatever it is, how can you sort of tap into that feeling and give a bit of relief to consumers, whether it's by giving them some sort of significant value in their lives, even bringing a dose of entertainment and humor just to give them, a little bit of an antidote to it, et cetera, or providing a product that actually helps, in the health space, for example, with mental health. So I think that would be a really interesting thing that I would love to see some brands tackle, and hopefully some of the brands we work with will be working with in the new year to do that. We are all in on data and AI, of course, married to the art, right? Advertising is art meets science. So at McKinney, we are big believers in the notion of attention. That is the most important currency that we believe brands need in order to drive successful transformative growth today. But it's not the kind of attention that you might be reading a lot about in the trade and the industry. There's a lot of focus on attention as a media metric only. Did my eyes stay on that banner ad for 0.2 seconds longer today than it did yesterday? And that's one dimension. Like, yes, you literally have to get consumers' attention, but we believe there's a much more holistic definition of attention, which is really the competition for minds, cultures, and wallets. And you have to win across all of that in order to truly get attention. So we have crafted a data-driven model that measures attention for brands against their competitive set, has an index on the 3 dimensions that we believe are most critical to achieving growth today. And that model we've actually had in place, and that philosophy around attention we've had in place for a few years. And then when AI came on the scene, we basically took AI and said, how can we make the model sort of smarter, faster, better using AI? And so we have it now as a live app. It's instantaneous. We can go on and search any brand, look at its competitive set, understand how it's doing on attention, and AI is providing the insights for us, the smarter social search queries for us, et cetera. So it's AI powered, but the real value of it is the data that we get from it really serves as the jumping off point for all of the creative development that we do. So it gives us kind of the lane for, we know this brand has this issue on attention. We're going to go all in and really focus on that. And it drives our creative and media strategies differently. So it's been a huge game changer for McKinney.